I, 27M, am a senior investment analyst at one of Wall Street's leading firms, specializing in tech sector valuations. After recently leading a successful $500 million merger deal, my annual compensation pushed well into six figures. Not mentioning this to brag, it's crucial to understanding why my parents chose my cousin's wedding to ambush me about money, leading to their years of financial deception being exposed. The core of this story involves my younger brother Mike, 23M, our parents' golden child who lives in their fully furnished basement. His gaming setup is worth more than my first car, 3 4K gaming monitors, a custom-built PC that cost thousands, every gaming console released in the past decade, and a gaming chair that cost more than my monthly rent during college. Our parents have poured over $15,000 into what he calls his streaming career headquarters. Mike has never held a real job. His YouTube gaming channel has 127 subscribers, and his Twitch stream peaks at 10 viewers. He calls himself a professional content creator, though he's never earned a single dollar. Our parents call him an entrepreneur in training. I call it what it is, an expensive hobby funded by borrowed money. Growing up, the disparity in our treatment was constant. I maintained a 4.2 GPA, captained the debate team, and earned early acceptance to top universities. Mike barely graduated high school, claiming he was networking with future gaming collaborators, his term for playing online until 3 a.m. The real turning point came during college applications. Our parents dropped their bombshell: "We only have enough college money for one child." They literally laughed when I asked about tuition assistance. This came after years of promises about my education being taken care of. What followed were 4 brutal years of juggling studies with survival. I worked 3 jobs, opening shifts at a coffee shop starting at 4:30 a.m., evening call center work until midnight, and weekend data entry. My home was a converted garage shared with 3 other students. Dinner usually meant instant noodles, and sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford. Meanwhile, Mike started attending community college, though attending meant showing up to maybe 1 class per week. Our parents bought him new gaming equipment each semester, claiming it was educational because he was interested in game development. He never took a single programming course. After graduation, I cut contact to the minimum, major holidays, and unavoidable family events. I focused entirely on my career, starting from an entry-level position and working my way up through sheer determination. Every promotion, every bonus went into paying off my student loans and building a stable life. This brings us to last weekend's wedding. I was actually enjoying myself, catching up with relatives I hadn't seen in years. Then my parents did something unprecedented: they deliberately joined my conversation group. First red flag. My father started asking about my recent promotion. Second red flag, I hadn't told them about it. He mentioned hearing about my new salary range from someone at his golf club. The way he emphasized salary range made his intentions clear. What followed was a calculated attempt at public manipulation. My mother asked if I had anything else to share with the family, her tone dripping with false sweetness. When I said no, my father's facade cracked. He demanded I stop this behavior and show some gratitude to the parents who sacrificed everything for me. I tried to excuse myself, but he ordered me to sit down for a family discussion. That's when he launched into a rehearsed speech about filial duty and how my impressive income should be used to give back to the family. The other relatives looked increasingly uncomfortable, either staring at their phones or finding the floor fascinating. It was obvious my parents were trying to shame me into giving them money, likely because supporting Mike's lifestyle was becoming unsustainable as they approached retirement. That's when something in me snapped. Years of pent-up resentment burst forth. I decided to give them exactly what they wanted: a public family discussion about money. I detailed how they had laughed off my college requests, how I worked multiple jobs while studying, how they had done nothing beyond the legal minimum of housing me until 18. What happened next was like a scene from a drama. Aunt Linda spoke up first, revealing she had lent my parents $15,000 specifically for my college education. Uncle Rob added his $20,000 loan for the boys' education. More relatives joined in, revealing a pattern of loans taken under the pretense of funding both our educations. The total amount was staggering. Family members had collectively lent my parents over $60,000, explicitly for educational purposes. All while I worked myself to exhaustion and Mike got every gaming gadget he wanted. The room fell silent as everyone processed this revelation. My parents had taken money meant for both our educations, used it all on Mike, forced me to fend for myself, and then lied to everyone about their financial struggles to avoid repayment. I couldn't handle being in that room anymore. The mix of vindication and renewed hurt was overwhelming. I retreated to the restroom to compose myself. When I returned, the group had dispersed, and my parents were nowhere to be seen. Mike called me the next day, alternating between fury and panic. 3 relatives are preparing to sue our parents for the borrowed money. These family members had held off on demanding repayment because they believed our parents were struggling financially. Now that they know the truth, that our parents had money for Mike's expensive hobbies but claimed they couldn't repay their debts, they're taking legal action. He demanded I talk to these relatives and convince them I was lying at the wedding to his save face. He wants me to help get our parents out of this mess because I'm the one who caused it. When I refused, he threatened to expose me online, though what exactly he plans to expose about my honest, hard-working life remains unclear. What's truly revealing is how much money our parents actually spent on Mike's gaming obsession over the years. The custom PC builds alone cost thousands each time they were upgraded. Adding in the consoles, accessories, streaming equipment, and so-called tournament and travel expenses, they've invested well over $40,000 in his failed gaming career. The most heartbreaking conversation came from my maternal grandmother. She called me crying, explaining how she'd been sending monthly checks to help with my college expenses during my first 2 years. That money, like everything else, went straight to Mike's fund. When she asked my parents why I never thanked her for the help, they told her I was too proud to acknowledge financial assistance. The family's reaction has been overwhelming. More relatives are coming forward with similar stories of unpaid loans for education. My parents' carefully constructed image of generous, supportive parents is crumbling as people connect the dots between their borrowed money and Mike's expensive gaming equipment. Some might say I shouldn't have exposed family matters at a wedding. But they chose that public venue to ambush me, counting on social pressure to force my compliance. Their tactics backfired spectacularly. To those suggesting I help them avoid the lawsuits, why should I enable more lies? They had years to make things right, to repay their debts, to acknowledge their unfair treatment of me. Instead, they continued their pattern of deception until it finally caught up with them. I don't wish them financial ruin. I just want the truth to be known. If they face consequences for their actions, that's not my responsibility to fix. I spent years fixing my own situation that they created. I won't spend more years fixing theirs. Their years of favoritism and financial manipulation are finally catching up with them. The truth has a way of coming out, even if it takes a wedding reception to spark the revelation. Now, as the lawsuits proceed and more relatives uncover the extent of their deception, I find myself feeling not vindictive, but relieved. The weight of their lies is finally lifting, not just from my shoulders, but from our entire extended family. Update 1: Things have taken an interesting turn. First, thank you all for your overwhelming support on my original post. You've helped me stay focused during what happened next. The lawsuits are officially moving forward, but with a twist I wasn't expecting. During the initial discovery phase, my parents' financial records revealed they had been running what amounts to a small Ponzi scheme within our family. They weren't just borrowing money, they were systematically targeting different relatives at specific times, using elaborately crafted stories about educational emergencies. My old high school guidance counselor reached out after hearing about the situation. Turns out my parents had applied for and received multiple educational grants and fee waivers by claiming extreme financial hardship. She's now providing documentation showing they were simultaneously making large gaming-related purchases. What's really satisfying is watching their carefully constructed web of lies unravel in real time. Their lawyer apparently spent 3 hours just listing all the different stories they told different relatives. The judge was not amused. Mike tried a new approach today, showing up at my office building with a sob story about needing to save the family legacy. Security cameras caught him practicing his crying face in the lobby bathroom before trying to confront me. When that didn't work, he started ranting about how he'd expose my success as being built on family connections. The irony of him not realizing I built my career entirely without family help is just chef's kiss. The most explosive development came when an independent forensic accountant, hired by the relatives' lawyers, found evidence of my parents attempting to hide assets by transferring them to Mike's various gaming accounts. They actually thought no one would track money sent to something called epic_gamer_purchases LLC, which, by the way, they set up in Mike's name without him even knowing. I've received messages from family friends who say my parents tried similar tactics with them, using different sob stories each time. One particularly clever aunt kept all their text messages, which directly contradict the stories they told in court. To everyone asking if I feel guilty about this, absolutely not. I'm documenting everything, staying completely professional, and letting their own actions speak for themselves. As one commenter wisely said, sometimes the best revenge is just sitting back and watching karma do its work. Next hearing is in 2 weeks. My lawyer says we don't even need to present much. My parents are doing a fantastic job of destroying their own credibility. I'll update if anything significant happens, but for now, I'm enjoying watching justice unfold naturally. And yes, Mike's streaming numbers have dropped to 0 since he can't buy fake views anymore. Turns out success actually requires work. Who knew? Update 2, what happened tonight shows just how desperate my parents have become. They orchestrated an elaborate scheme to get into my apartment building, telling the doorman they were planning a surprise family reconciliation. They even brought a fake cake and balloons to make it look legitimate. The real surprise? They'd hired a social media consultant to film the encounter, hoping to create a viral video showing me as the heartless son. Unfortunately for them, my building's security cameras caught them rehearsing their lines in the parking lot for an hour before coming up. My father tried a new angle, claiming he had compromising information about my early career that could ruin me on Wall Street. The information? That I worked as a barista during college. I actually laughed out loud. My success story of working from coffee shop employee to senior analyst is already part of my firm's recruiting presentations. The most absurd moment came when they pulled out a contract they'd written themselves. It demanded I not only recant everything but also agree to pay them a family maintenance fee, basically funding Mike's gaming career. The contract was written in what my lawyer later called video game terms, including clauses about respawning family trust and leveling up relationships. My mother's contribution to this ambush was particularly creative. She created a PowerPoint presentation titled, "Why Our Son Owes Us, a Financial Analysis." The presentation included such gems as calculating the cost of my childhood meals with compound interest and claiming I owed them for emotional bandwidth usage. Instead of engaging with their theatrics, I simply began recording on my phone and said, "You are currently attempting extortion on camera. Would you like to continue?" The speed with which they gathered their props and fled was truly impressive. Mike dropped his phone, shattering the screen he'd been using to film their planned viral moment. The greatest irony? Their attempt at intimidation has become evidence in the relatives' lawsuits. The judge was particularly interested in the fake cake, which they'd actually labeled Family Reconciliation Take 3, suggesting this wasn't their first attempt at staging such a scene. My lawyer is having a field day with their contract, especially the part where they tried to claim ownership of my future gaming-related ventures. I don't have any gaming ventures, but apparently they thought this would somehow force me to fund Mike's streaming career. I've upgraded my security system and given their photos to building management. The most satisfying part? Every time they try something new, it just makes their legal position worse. My lawyer says he's never seen anyone self-destruct their own defense so efficiently. To everyone who suggested I install cameras after my last post, thank you. The footage of them practicing their spontaneous emotional breakdown in the parking lot might just become evidence of their attempting to defraud the court through manufactured evidence. The hearings next week. At this rate, they'll have violated so many court orders that the judge won't even need to hear arguments. I'll update when there's more news, but for now, I'm just documenting everything and letting them continue to destroy their own case. And yes, I kept the cake. It was store-bought with "Happy Birthday" hastily crossed out and "Family Forever" written in wobbly icing. currently sitting in my office as a reminder that sometimes the best revenge is letting people reveal who they really are. Update 3, I couldn't have scripted what's happening now. During the discovery phase, something remarkable surfaced. My parents had created an entire fake investment portfolio they called Future Gaming Empire Incorporated. Using the money borrowed from relatives, they'd been investing in gaming company stocks, all under Mike's name to hide the assets. The judge's response was priceless. When presented with their investment strategy document, which included gems like buy stocks in companies Mike plays games from and invest in energy drinks Mike uses while streaming, she actually had to call a recess to maintain her professional composure. Their lawyer quit yesterday. Not just withdrew from the case, actually quit practicing law entirely. Apparently, after discovering that my parents had created fraudulent bank statements using Microsoft Paint, yes, really, he decided family law wasn't for him anymore. What's truly fascinating is watching their social circle implode. Their country club membership was suspended after it came to light that they'd been running a separate scam there, collecting investments for Mike's non-existent esports team. Several club members have now joined the lawsuit. The church they've attended for 20 years asked them to step down from all committees after discovering they'd been using the prayer request list as a prospecting tool for potential loans. Their pastor found a notebook detailing which congregation members might have emergency education funds to borrow. Most satisfying development? Mike's gaming records were subpoenaed. Turns out, he's ranked in the bottom 20% of players in most games. All those stories about him almost winning tournaments? He never actually entered any. The entry fees our parents claimed to pay went straight to buying in-game cosmetics. Their retirement accounts revealed another layer of deception. They'd been marking regular transfers to e-education support services, which turned out to be a shell company they created to buy Mike's gaming equipment while appearing to save for college. The forensic accountant's report reads like a comedy script. They found monthly subscriptions to services that artificially inflate Twitch viewer counts, fake YouTube engagement farms, and, my personal favorite, a service that provides actors to pretend to be gaming talent scouts in Mike's streams. My parents' attempts to explain all this have been spectacular. They tried claiming it was all the investment in their son's future, and that buying him a $500 gaming chair was ergonomic education. The judge's response, and the $1,000 monthly allowance for in-game purchases was what? Digital textbooks? Their last-ditch effort to salvage their reputation backfired dramatically. They tried hosting a family reconciliation dinner, where they planned to explain everything. Only 3 people showed up, all of them process servers with new lawsuit paperwork. The most ironic part? If they'd just been honest about favoring Mike and not wanting to fund my education, none of this would have happened. Instead, their elaborate web of lies and financial fraud is now court record. Their new lawyer, their 4th in 3 weeks, has advised them to settle immediately. Instead, they're trying to argue that all the gaming equipment purchases were therapeutic necessities for Mike's educational development. They submitted a doctor's note apparently written on a prescription pad they bought from Amazon. I'm staying completely out of it, but my lawyer forwards me the hearing highlights. Apparently, the judge now starts each session by asking, what creative financial instruments have we discovered today? To the Redditor who suggested I check their eBay history, thank you. Finding their listings for genuine college acceptance letters blank really helped the investigation. The final hearing is next week. At this point, the only question is how extensive the financial penalties will be. Their attempts to hide assets have only made everything worse, and each new discovery adds to their legal troubles. I'll update after the hearing, but for now, I'm just watching justice unfold in ways I never imagined. Sometimes the universe has a better sense of irony than we could ever plan. Update 4, the karma train just keeps rolling. Remember how my parents always boasted about their extensive family connections? Well, those connections have become their worst nightmare. Their attempt to create a family support alliance backfired spectacularly when an uncle, a forensic accountant, volunteered to help by auditing their finances. What he uncovered was beyond anyone's expectations. My parents had created an entire fake scholarship foundation called Future Digital Leaders Fund, supposedly supporting underprivileged gaming prodigies. In reality, every penny went to Mike's gaming setup and in-game purchases. The most satisfying development? I pulled some strings at my firm and arranged for a gaming industry analyst to evaluate Mike's professional gaming career potential. His ranking in the bottom percentile of all tracked players shattered his 5-year excuse streak of blaming lag and broken controllers. Their social downfall has been particularly sweet. At the country club's annual meeting, someone accidentally played a compilation video of all their contradicting loan request stories. They resigned before the vote to expel them could take place. My mother's bridge club, including 3 retired IRS agents, created a devastating spreadsheet titled The Family Fraud Chronicle, now evidence in 5 separate lawsuits. Mike's gaming setup professional appraisal revealed he could have bought a house with that money. His meltdown over this revelation happened live on stream to his remaining viewers. I've maintained professional distance, but did authorize my firm's junior analysts to use their case as a study in how not to commit financial fraud. The SEC has requested a copy of the resulting presentation. Their new lawyer, number 6, suggested bankruptcy, but they're still arguing that gaming equipment was business expenses for their family entertainment enterprise. The judge's eye rolling was visible from the back of the courtroom. The audit of Mike's legitimate business revealed total earnings, $3.47 over 5 years. Our parents' investment-to-return ratio broke the court calculator. Mike's internet got cut off when our parents couldn't pay the bills. His GoFundMe for his professional gaming career got 0 donations despite family-wide sharing. To the Redditor who suggested tracking their Amazon purchase history, genius move. Finding receipts for how to create convincing financial documents really sealed the deal. The final hearing approaches, with multiple judges requesting to observe this textbook case of familial financial fraud. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just watching karma unfold, it's watching karma get a professional audit. Next update will be after the final hearing. Thanks, Reddit, for all the suggestions that helped expose their schemes fully. Update 5, I have to share the most satisfying conclusion I could have ever imagined. You won't believe how perfectly karma delivered its final blow. Remember how Mike always looked down on regular jobs, claiming they were beneath his professional gamer status? Well, guess who's now working at my company's most demanding customer service department? That's right, through my industry connections, I arranged for him to get an entry-level position. Not out of kindness, but because I wanted a front-row seat to his reality check. His desk is perfectly visible from my corner office. Every morning at 7 a.m. sharp, I watch him trudge in wearing a proper business suit, no more gaming t-shirts, looking absolutely miserable. No more sleeping until noon or streaming schedule excuses. Instead, he has strict performance metrics, back-to-back customer calls, and actual responsibilities. The contrast between his former gaming career and current reality is simply delicious. The best part? I specifically requested he be placed on our most challenging account, dealing with high-net-worth clients who make his gaming rage moments look tame. Every time he complains about difficult customers, I remind him that client satisfaction is key to career growth during our elevator encounters. His face turns the same shade of red it used to when he lost his gaming matches. Our parents, facing massive legal judgments, had to sell their house and move to a tiny apartment. Mike's precious gaming setup? Sold to help pay their debts. That custom PC he bragged about for years is now in some teenager's room, probably being used for actual gaming skill development. All those limited edition consoles and collector's items? Gone to the highest bidders on eBay. I'll admit, I take particular pleasure in assigning him extra training modules about professional communication and time management, skills he claimed were beneath him while pursuing his gaming career. Every now and then, I send company-wide emails praising exemplary customer service, making sure to mention how entry-level representatives can work their way up just like I did. Watching him read these emails from his cubicle brings me immense satisfaction. The cherry on top? He had to sell his entire gaming console collection to pay for his professional wardrobe. Now he spends his lunch breaks watching other people's gaming streams on his phone, while I enjoy lunch in the executive dining room with a perfect view of his desk. Sometimes I'll stop by his cubicle to ask about his metrics and customer satisfaction scores, just like our parents used to ask about his streaming numbers. Our parents tried suggesting I mentor Mike in his new role. I declined, explaining that I learned everything through hard work, just like he'll have to do. Though I do enjoy our brief professional interactions where he has to address me as sir in front of others. It's amazing how quickly family ties transform when they're bound by corporate hierarchy. He recently tried complaining to HR about being targeted for extra training. They pulled up his performance metrics and suggested he focus on improving his numbers instead. Turns out, real-world performance can't be enhanced with cheat codes or microtransactions. To everyone who supported me through this journey, thank you. Karma delivered beyond my wildest expectations. Mike is learning about real life, our parents are facing their consequences, and I get to watch it all unfold from my corner office while signing his performance reviews. Success truly is the best revenge, especially when you can manage it professionally. And to Reddit, your advice helped make this perfect ending possible. Sometimes justice comes in the form of a 7 a.m. alarm clock and a customer service headset. Watching someone who once mocked my work ethic now having to live it is the sweetest victory of all.